And this week it goes to Google for what's become a severe issue between tech giants and small open source projects. In this case, the project is FFmpeg, which is another of those you might be running in a lot of the software you use without realizing it. FFmpeg's job is to encode and decode video and audio in just about every codec imaginable. Google has deployed advanced AI tools to find security vulnerabilities, which is good, right? The issue is when their target is small volunteer-run projects like FFmpeg, especially given how underfunded they are, particularly in proportion to how widely used and relied upon their software is. So what happens when this security infrastructure turns small projects into victims? Google's AI, known as Big Sleep, has been finding all sorts of obscure bugs in FFmpeg, so obscure it's unclear if they ever would have been exploited without Google finding them. FFmpeg tweetexted, "Security issues are taken extremely seriously in FFmpeg, but fixes are written by volunteers. This point cannot be emphasized enough. FFmpeg is written almost exclusively by volunteers." So all this new AI bug hunting represents an immense burden on open source maintainers who are already stretched thin. The latest controversy started with a medium impact issue described as exceptionally obscure. That kind of ruffled the feathers of the software's volunteer maintainers. As one post pointed out, Google spends literally millions of dollars for security researchers to find bugs in projects like FFmpeg while contributing next to nothing of value to the projects themselves, especially for bugs that are, in FFmpeg's words, CVE slop. FFmpeg said on X, "The core of the debate is Google should send patches. Billions of dollars of AI infrastructure and highly paid security engineers used to pressure volunteers into fixing issues for free." Good point. Are you telling me that a trillion-dollar corporation like Google can't put some of their massive engineering talent towards submitting a few fixes? Here's my question. If their AI can find the bugs, why can't their AI write the patches? By the way, Google makes extensive use of FFmpeg in the backend for YouTube. Shouldn't they at least be giving them a good deal of funding? FFmpeg is far from the only project facing these issues. For another example, libxml2, another that you may have been running extensively in the background without realizing it, recently saw its maintainer, Nick Wellenhofer, step down because he had to, quote, "spend several hours each week dealing with security issues reported by third parties. Most of these issues aren't critical, but it's still a lot of work. In the long term, this is unsustainable for an unpaid volunteer like me. In the long run, putting such demands on OSS maintainers without compensating them is detrimental. It's even more unlikely with Google Project Zero, the best white hat security researchers money can buy, breathing down the necks of volunteers." Made even worse is a policy change back in July that only gives projects a week between discovery and publicly announcing it. A lot of these rules are put in place so that big corporations like Microsoft don't just ignore them, instead putting pressure on them to patch their software. But obviously, those issues don't exist with open source software, and the last thing OSS maintainers need is more pressure. Especially ones that give massive benefits to giants like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon who don't seem to feel any obligation to give back. Add to that these numerous AI-scripted bug reports, and it starts to look more like bullying. In fact, FFmpeg said, "Arguably the most brilliant engineer in FFmpeg left because of this. He reverse-engineered dozens of codecs by hand as a volunteer. Then security researchers and corporate employees came along, repeatedly insisted critical security issues were fixed, immediately waiving their CVEs. This was hugely demotivating to the fun and enjoyment of reverse engineering." Mark Atwood said in a reply, "I spent about a week a year at my time at Amazon preventing us from accidentally fucking over FFmpeg. I usually had to start each conversation with, 'They are not a vendor. There is no NDA. We have no leverage. Your VP has refused to help fund them, and they could kill 3 major product lines tomorrow with an email. So stop and listen to me.'" Security researcher Katie Musori's exed, The problem with what Google did in this case was in not applying its considerable resources into proactively offering patches to FFmpeg, not that it applied its default disclosure terms to the bugs it found and reported. More recently, FFmpeg X'd. One last thing. Google boasted to the media about its AI-detected vulnerabilities before FFmpeg volunteers were able to send fixes. A dozen AI vulnerability reports were dumped on FFmpeg volunteers at the same time Google was boasting to TechCrunch. Is Google security really about marketing? Maybe things could turn around if more Google engineers, cognizant of this issue, contemplated that slogan on their wall that says, "Don't be evil." Oh, wait. Well, if you want to be better than Google and you have any coding skills, maybe volunteer a bit of them at FFmpeg.